Iron Man issue number 2. That's right, folks. The relaunch has just started, and I couldn't tell you where this fits in continuity. If you look at like Tony in like Avengers and other books, he's got a different suit. He looks completely different. This Tony has lost a lot of weight, can barely walk, has scraggy hair and a beard. It's so weird. This book is really fun. I don't know how to describe it to people. It feels so unique, but like distinctively Iron Man. Now, Spencer Ackerman is like not somebody who's like a stranger to comic books. Like, he seems like a fan, but he is a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. So he's doing something here that is like watching a guy just have like a mental break and a fever dream. And I think that's cool. You can always tell when like somebody not from the comic book space comes to comic books who is like a fan, because they just pull out all the stops and are like, reference, reference, reference. I had this idea for a while, clearly, so now we're actually going to get to do it and do something cool. I think this book's crazy in all the right ways. It's so like old school, capitalism is bad, look at like these companies destroying the world, while having like that flair of like a guy who could grow up from the anime age being like, yeah, a big sword is fun. You know? That's what this is. So the first part of this book is kind of split into two stories. We are seeing Tony building his new kind of like more magically inclined suit, and he's also talking to some board of directors that are at Stark Industries. He's essentially asking the board, please vote against the merger with AIM and Roxxon. I don't want to see that happen. If they get our patents and our ideas, neither of these companies are like good and they're going to do dangerous stuff. So Tony talks to somebody first, and it's like, Tony, the world's changing. AIM is in like a post-Orchis era. They're going to do better stuff. But Tony's more worried about Roxxon. Like, Roxxon is dangerous. But this guy on the board's like, they make comic books now. Like, they're fine. You know, because in the Immortal Thor book, which I've also been reviewing if you're interested in seeing those, Roxxon, owned by Dario, who is the Minotaur, he bought like Marvel Comics essentially, and now they're like making comic books because it was like a joke that Thor was like a crazy Chris Hemsworth guy. It's funny, but I really like how we're handling this. It's like, Tony, you can't stop this. Like, it's good for the economy, it's good for our business. So as this is going on, we are cutting to a sequence where we see Tony in like his weird, like leathery, spindly Iron Man suit, working with like a big lizard lady who was taking barrels and putting them underneath a pipeline. And I'm like, oh shit. Then it blows up. And like, oh shit, did Tony just blow up a pipeline? That's very timely. So the first person Tony talks to, they're voting yes on the merger. And then we cut to Melinda May, the other person that we see Tony's going to talk to, somebody who worked at S.H.I.E.L.D. They bring up S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff where she's like, yeah, Tony, you could sit here and tell me like all the shit I did involving of like the Orchis stuff, but didn't you like weren't you leading S.H.I.E.L.D. during like a secret invasion? You know? She's also the one trying to connect Tony to the stuff with the pipeline. It's Tuatara is like the character that he worked with. It's just like, you know, someone that it has a shady past, but Tony can like hire to help him with this thing because who cares about this character? Interesting pull. Like, I wasn't expecting that. This Tony looks insane. He looks like the Mandarin, like how you'd imagine the Mandarin to look if they did a proper adaptation of him in like the live action stuff. He looks broken and decrepit, and it's crazy. And the entire time he's just calling bullshit, and he's like, I saw what the Sentinel machines were that they were building, and I put a stop to it when I saw that. Like, do you really think this is good, Melinda? She's like, it doesn't matter what's good or not anymore. This is how things have to be done. And I find that to be very fascinating. And that's when Tony pulls out the old cards like, yeah, that's just like classic S.H.I.E.L.D. traditions. Save the world but ignore the atrocities, you know? Where were you when their babies were burning, talking about like the mutants and stuff? I'm like, yeah, that's Tony. That is, okay, I've said this before, having recently become somebody who's reading a lot of Iron Man. You have to change like the industrialist capitalistic angle of Tony to being like, I am now world weary of everything that happens around me. So I have to be so anti what I used to be I can't be like for capitalism. I can't be for like industry evolution. He has like an AI technology that he developed that is so shitty, and I'm like, he's not like anti-AI yet, but he's starting to see like, man, this is getting too much. Like, so much is going on around me. I'm literally like flying to Colorado right now, and it's so freezing cold here, but I don't have time to like properly put climate controls on my suit. Everything sucks. This isn't good. So he's using his new Iron GPT AI, and it's not alerting him when like a villain literally like shows up right in front of them. Like a new version of Whiplash appears. He's like, Carl is out. He's like, who the hell's Carl? I'm just some guy. I'm gonna kick your ass. And Tony's like, okay, let's start with that. He's trying to like infiltrate an AIM base, so like he can take down an AIM base and stop them from doing a thing there. As he's fighting this Whiplash, we see like somebody who works for the leader of AIM, Monica Rapacini. She's like, hey, the Supreme Scientist is like, you could just come in for lunch and we could like talk about stuff. Tony's like, yeah, I guess that's a little bit easier than what's going on right now. So they have dinner, and you will see, I'm just going to point this out right now because it's going to come up later. You see in like the first panel where we're introduced to Monica in this book, there is like a weird server behind her with a very specific style of like hair. And we'll come back to that in a minute, because if you know history, it's kind of obvious who this could be. So Tony takes off the helmet, and he's just going to sit down and talk to her. And she's like, Tony, I still don't know what you're thinking we are about. He's like, it literally doesn't matter what you say. Your board is on board with this. Like, we're going to get your company. Imagine the AIM ideals and technologies that we have with like the patents that you have for the Iron Man suits and everything. Like, there's so much good we can do here, and so much we could control and have going on. Monica just keeps saying, like, I don't want to kill you, Tony. I'm sure Justine Hammer, like the person you fought in the last issue, she wants to kill you. She's got her own agenda. But I'm telling you now, AIM is not your enemy here. And he's like, I find that incredibly hard to believe. Like, what are you expecting of me in this situation? They're just going to get some dinner or something. Tony's still freaking out about the whole thing. Like, this doesn't seem right. I don't like anyone having, like, the developments that I've made. It seems very weird that, like, we're in an era where just, like, big corporations can buy each other for billions and, like, that's legal or something. That doesn't seem very good. Hey, a little on the nose with, like, big corporations merging into bigger corporations. It happens all the time now, apparently. But Tony gets, like, a really close look at the server. He's like, Anthony? He's like, what? I know you. And then suddenly we reveal that the server is actually Dr. Druid, classic Avengers character who sucks so much. He's like, you're the traitor. Justine told me there was a traitor, and he's like, yeah, forgive me, Iron Man, I'm not doing this by choice. And clearly, like, what else are you going to do with Dr. Druid? He's a piece of shit. He's a terrible character who doesn't do anything interesting, but somehow, through all of that, I still want a Marvel Legends action figure of him. Okay, so he does, like, some big magic stuff, literally, like, spindling out of control, freaking out. His cloak, like, manifests itself inside of Tony's helmet and starts to attack him from within. And the rest of this book is just an acid trip, which I think really works for Tony's character. One of the things writers like to play with, and I'm 100% okay with this, is the idea of Tony being the recovering addict. That always is his character. That is something we should focus on with his character. So when he is like having an acid trip, and like he's got the Charles Manson hair, and like his like helmet is like melting on top of him, the face of like his father and Captain America are like burning off in front of him in like huge flames that are like being enveloped by the Iron Man suit. It's crazy. And then like it cuts to like a sequence that's still like melting, and he's like talking to Emma Frost because they were just married. She's like, oh, do you love me now, Tony, when I'm so desperate and needy, and you can only feel powerful when a woman's weak around you? Yeah, does that make you feel good? Get you hot and bothered, you fucking freak, when you could like control a woman? And he's like, what are you talking about? No, this isn't her. What's going on? And then suddenly, like, she punches his head, and like a bunch of like bolts and nuts fly out, and he like turns into like a classic comic book character of like the classic like dot coloring. He's like, wait, no, what's going on? She hates you. She should hate you. Everyone should hate you. And it's like the demon in the bottle situation where he's like doing the classic panel that it like turns into like a demon of Iron Man looking back at him. Everyone hates you. You're terrible. And he's like, no, this isn't real. This isn't happening. This is like some weird magic trip. What's going on to me? I'm freaking out. But he's like, he punches the Iron Man demon and he like wakes up sometime later. He's like, oh, okay, what did Druid do to me? That was crazy. Did he try me in my mind? Do I hate myself that much? His GPT AI is like, did I miss the merger vote? He's like, no, you still got time. You got 45 minutes. He's like, shit, I gotta go. I'm like in Alaska or something. I gotta get out of here. So he like wakes up just when like the new Whiplash shows up and the Whiplash tries to fight him. He's like, I don't got time for this shit. I gotta go. How do I gotta get out of here? I guess I'll use like the new technology I was developing. And yeah, actually I did hire a lizard lady to destroy a pipeline because I needed the technology from Roxxon to develop a new weapon. So he blew up a pipeline and he built a giant freaking sword. That's literally like the last line of the book. I blew up their pipeline and used it to build a giant freaking sword. And you see this Tony Stark with a big sword and like, this is the good stuff. Like a weird armor-inspired look for Tony that's more medieval and leathery and straps. And yeah, give him a big anime sword made out of like gears and shit from like a weird magical pipeline. That's crazy. What? That's so weird. I like that shit. This is fun. This is a really cool idea for Tony, and it's more interesting than what we've seen of him in Avengers books right now. This is so strange. I really dig it. Like it's so specifically Tony. The things I did in my past are coming to haunt me. I have to fight them in a different way. But this Tony is just so much more broken and like defeated by the current state of like industry that it's just so crazy to see him try to fight this. So he's like, I guess I'm just going to build a giant sword to fight a Whiplash or something. I think that's awesome. This book is so cool. It's so unique. I'm very curious to see if Spencer is going to be like staying with Marvel for a bit, how long this run is going to go for, and what other characters he could potentially play with. Like, I think there is a lot to explore here, and I think he clearly wants to talk about like some parts of Marvel, like S.H.I.E.L.D. So if we like do like a Nick Fury book, that'd be pretty cool, or even like a Luke Cage book or something. I think that'd be fun. But this is sick. This is what Tony Stark's into for a while. I say that like all the time, but it's awesome. So, Iron Man issue number 2. I'm going to give a 9 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.